Hello, this is Angie Godfrey. This video is to help us identify the stages on the gloss and how we need to score it. So for this first example, we're going to take a look at the addition and subtraction domain for this kiddo's assessment, their gloss assessment. I just wanted to point out that the assessor for this one did follow the decision point guidelines. There's sometimes when we haven't, but in this case, this one did. So if we take a look at the addition and subtraction domain, we're going to take a look at this task 6, and the evaluator or assessor scored this as an E5 because the child counted on from 25. Not only did they do it or end up with an incorrect answer, but the counting on strategy is actually earlier than an E5. So we're going to want to go back and take a look at task 3. And if we look at this guidelines on task 3, it says that counting on falls right in a stage 4. So we're going to score this addition subtraction domain as a stage 4. If we take a look at the multiplication and division domain, we're going to disregard the task 7. The child couldn't solve it. We're going to cross that off, and let's take a look at task 4. This was scored as an E5. 5 times 6, they just know it. That was in the instructions and the guidelines for E5 on this task. So we're going to score the multiplication and division domain as an E5. For ratios and proportions, again, we're going to disregard task 8. It was a cannot solve. So let's take a look at task 5. The repeated addition that's recorded here falls right under the early 5 stage for this domain. So we're going to label this one an E5. So if we take a look at the whole thing and look at your recording sheet, I would record at the very top. You'll see a place to record each of the stages. We would record the addition subtraction as stage 4, multiplication division as E5, and ratios and proportions as E5 as well. Let's take a look at a second example. This one, the child interviewed a little farther, but there's some decision points here that we're going to discuss and that could be debatable. So let's take a look. Addition subtraction domain. I did want to point out that this assessor also followed the decision points to continue going on. In another video, I'll show you how when we administer the gloss, depending on the frustration level, we don't want the kiddos to get upset and angry, but there's another way to utilize those decision points as we continue to get more rigorous interview questions. So, but this one did. They followed the decision points. So if we take a look here, if any 5s are present, go on. If any E6s are present, go on. And then this one was if any 6s are circled, go on. So in this case, there weren't any. So as we try to figure out what the addition subtraction domain stage is, we tend to go to the highest one, but this is incorrect, and it counts as a do not solve. So we want to see if the E6 is the appropriate stage to put this in. The note-taking here isn't as clear as we would like. I looked at the 20 and thought what I needed. It doesn't really tell us how they subtracted, if they counted up, if they counted back, if they thought 80 minus 20 was 60, if they thought 8 minus 2 was 6, and then it's going to be a 0, which they're breaking it apart, but it could be straight algorithm. But because they talked about the 20 in this one, and the 30 in task 6, we're going to go ahead and score this one as an E6, and then just be cautious and mindful when we group these kids that I might want to keep an eye on this child that he may not be an E6, he may be a 5. So I'm going to go ahead and do an E6, but I'm going to be mindful of who this kiddo is. If we take a look at multiplication and division, let's look at task 13 and task 10. Both of these, no matter which one I go with, they're both E6s. So I'm going to go ahead and go with an E6 for this stage. If we take a look at the ratios and proportions, task 11 and 14 both count as do not solve, or cannot solve, excuse me. So if we look at task 8, now I'm curious about this one because initially the assessor has, I'm going to get my mouse here, right here you can see that they originally circled the 5 and then changed it for E5, and I'm not really sure why. So I went back into the task 8 strategy guidelines, and this description right here falls right under the stage 5. It says very specifically that they have the 3 4s, and this child did 4 times 3 is 12. So I'm going to change what I thought maybe this assessor was thinking. Well, I don't know what they were thinking. But if I'm going to just have this paper and have to make decisions off of it as just myself, I'm going to categorize this child as a 5. So I went ahead and did that. Another teacher might, depending on what they actually heard from the child, might score this as an E5. I wasn't standing there. I wasn't assessing them, so I'm not exactly sure. I just know that what it says here is the same thing out of the examples in task 8. So if we take a look at all of these, addition, subtraction, domain is scored at an E6. The multiplication division is scored at an E6. And I'm scoring the ratios and proportions as a stage 5. Now, to get the overall, this would be a stage 5. We take the lowest one, and that's the overall stage. Thank you for joining me. I hope you found some valuable information by glossing your kiddos and having those one-on-one diagnostic interviews. Come back, subscribe, and I'll be posting more videos on how to score the gloss and then what to do next. Have a great day.